Let's pretend that you get to share a six-pack with any musician, dead or alive, but it's the last beer you'll ever get to drink.
Oh, Lord.
What beer are you drinking and what musician do you share it with? That's a tough question. Welcome to Fretboard TV. We are back with our first ever musician that is not an employee of Fretboard Brewing Company. So
Yet.
All right, yet. So I'd like to introduce Scott Carnder, because I always spell his name wrong. It's not Carnder, it's Carnder.
That is correct.
Yes. And so for every one of you that will meet Scott ever in your lifetime, don't screw it up like me. So
Too late.
Too late. All right, that's all right. So cheers.
Cheers to you,
Thanks
sir.
for coming on. And we're going to talk about today why you are such an important, integral part of the music community here.
That won't take long.
Oh, come on. All right. So I first met, I think I first met you probably when we first opened the first year and the Spookfloaters played here.
I think so.
And I may have talked to you on the phone. So we'll get into that in a second. But I just want to talk a little bit first before I dive into your past about current projects you have going on, because you are in a lot of projects.
That is true. You know, being a musician in Cincinnati and really not on the road much anymore, multiple projects is the way to stay busy, you know, or multiple revenue streams. So I guess if we go in sort of chronological order, I'm in Hickory Robot, which is a four-piece bluegrass group, primarily original music. I play mandolin in that group. I guess actually backing up, I'm also in the Spookfloaters. Played bass in the Spookfloaters since 1994.
Okay.
And
which is where I first met you.
Yeah, that's right.
First.
But the Spookfloaters don't play as much anymore. Our guitarist lives in Colorado, so we play 3 or 4 shows a year. This year, because of COVID, we played on July 4th, which was the band's 33rd anniversary, and I believe that's probably our only gig this year. So which I think that'll be a first too, that we've only ever played in a year that we've just played a single gig. So there's that, and then there's a couple offshoots from Hickory Robot. I play with the guitarist Jim Pells and his solo project, which is Jim Pells and the Firewalkers. Okay. Which is kind of an alt-country thing.
Great guitar player.
Yeah,
and
songwriter. Monster, songwriter, musician, just a wonderful guy. And he and I play as a duo around town occasionally, and that's Cardinal String Company. Cool. Lauren Schlomer and I, the fiddle player from Robot, play together as a duo. That's called River Snout. And then after, I guess, about a year and a half ago, we debuted Almond Butter Band here. Yeah. And that pretty much rounds out the projects now, I think. So is that 5 or 6?
Enough.
Almost enough.
You keep busy. We wanted to interview Scott. I thought you'd be, we just chatted about this. I thought you'd be a great person to interview because you do know a lot of people. You know a lot of you've been around for a while in the music industry doing what you do best. Play music, and
next year will be 30 years I've been playing professionally in Cincinnati.
And you started booking your own bands, or do you book other bands yet?
At this point, I'm primarily just booking my own groups, and it was really a way just to kind of keep my ducks in a row. I had a situation come up where I double booked something, and really the booking thing kind of grew out of not wanting that to happen again. So I sort of formalized it as Bokanon booking. I've done a little bit of booking for another brewery here in Cincinnati, but really I'm just it's just kind of an in-house thing. I've had some friends approach and I'm happy to help. But I've got a lot of irons in the fire already. So, I find that, the roster of bands that I play with is sufficient.
So how did you start? When did you start playing an instrument? Was it when you were a kid, high school?
Yeah, I think, I grew up in a pretty musical house. My dad was really into bluegrass and my mom was into Motown.
Okay, is that where a lot of the jazz and Motown influence comes from?
I think so.
At least what you post on Facebook, right?
Yeah, it took me years later to realize that playing bass and mandolin were direct correlations to what my parents played when I was a kid. And And what I heard, and then I kind of gravitated back to that. When I was young, I think I first started playing piano. I played for a couple years, and it didn't really take. Maybe the saxophone in school and the programs, and that didn't really take. It wasn't really till I was 18 I started playing guitar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was a really poor guitar player. And I had a buddy who played bass, and he was playing some lines, and I could tell what song he was playing, just playing one note, at a time. And I was like, oh, well, that's the instrument for me. And I went and got a bass, and like a year later, I was in CCM on a scholarship. And
were you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Just kind of I just had to find the right instrument, really. And and that was it.
Cool.
And that's where I met Dan Hamilton, the guitar player from Spookfloaters, was also there. He was studying jazz guitar. We were in the same combo group together. So we got to know each other, and they were looking to make a change. They wanted to record an album. They weren't kind of happy with their current lineup. And I actually met them at the Fish Music Hall show in '94, which is famous as the fire alarm show.
Yes.
And he's like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And I went home and called my wife, who was then my girlfriend. I'm like, I think I'm going to join the Spookfloaters tomorrow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. At that point, the Ripley's was the big club in Clifton.
Yeah.
And I would go and see them there. And I was playing with a couple of the guys from Jerry's little band in my first band, Andrew Newbold and Chris Permy. And they were 6 or 7 years older than I was, but they were kind of my introduction into that scene.
Okay.
How that got started was I was taking bass lessons actually right over here at where Mayhaus Music used to be on Creek Road.
Yeah.
From a guy named Vernay Reindaler, who was their age and a contemporary and bass player in town. And they were like, hey, do you want to join this band we're going to put together? And he said, I'm moving to Chicago, but I've got a student who would be great for you. And that's how I met those guys. And so that was, he kind of changed my life in a little bit of a way. I joined that band in '94, and in '96 we put out our first CD. And at that point, the band was on the road pretty heavily. We played 150 nights a year.
Oh, wow.
For 4 or 5 years in a row. I mean, we were playing about 10 states on a regular basis, and
I didn't realize you guys played out that much.
I
knew it was big, and that's probably where the following really comes from. Is that consistent playing for that long?
Yeah, and it was and it was fun, and it was definitely to play that much, and every Thursday or Wednesday through Saturday, I was in a van with 5 other guys and on the road somewhere. I mean, it's a great way to spend your 20s,
Oh, yeah, sure.
The backpack and a bass, and off you go, and, living the dream. And it was really good, but the funny thing was, once we kind of started to get married and slow down, had kids, and we were playing less, I enjoyed the shows more when they were less frequent.
Sure.
And it became special again, to play.
Sure.
Which is one of the things that kind of translates to now playing in multiple bands, is that I'm always excited for the next show because it's not the same thing over and over again.
Right. Sure.
And it keeps me on my toes.
Well, and so you've been in these bands for a very long time. It shows your dedication to the art as well as to the scene itself. Hickory Robot just turned 10 last year.
That's right. Yeah. We just had our 11th anniversary last month.
Yeah.
So we have 3 albums out, and I was talking to our guitar player Jim on the way over here about the next project. So
can you give us a little sneak peek, or?
Yeah, well, you can hear some of the tunes if you come to see us. We'll actually be here a week from Friday on, I guess by the time this airs, it'll be this Friday on October 9th.
Yep.
We're doing a multi-band event with John Ford and Jeremy Francis, and I'm not sure who else, but I think Robot's going to play like an hour or so. And I'm sure we'll play some of the new ones. So we'll see how that plays. I'm just excited to get back in the studio and record more. I love that band. I love all the projects I'm in, but Robot's kind of the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart, because it's my songs and Jim's songs, and just we after 11 years we're pretty bonded as a group. So
not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, and the caliber of the musicians is so high. Anything we write, the band can pull off, and that's what a treat for a songwriter.
So nowadays, who's inspiring you as a musician currently?
I'm probably like a lot of people into bluegrass. I'm really loving Billy Strings right now. I think he's just phenomenal. I think he is the future of bluegrass.
Yep.
And he's such a nice nod to the tradition, but he brings so much youthful energy, and he's not afraid to mix in the whole jam band, Grateful Dead, and he's got huge ears, and I mean clearly been accepted into the kind of the A-list Nashville community. He's played with everybody, so I really dig Billy Strings.
Great choice.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of jazz and bluegrass. And a little bit of rock. I still listen to quite a bit of Grateful Dead and that sort of thing. A band I've really been hung up on the last 6 months is Thievery Corporation.
Okay.
Who are
I know a little bit, but not much, but a little bit. Yeah.
World beat and reggae and
frauds.
French coffee house, and they're a broad influence, and it's the same thing. It's like two guys who bring in other musicians to create these sounds, and it's just I'll put one of their albums on and I'll just leave it in the car and listen to it for a week straight. So I've been really digging that, and it's pretty far away from what I'm actually playing.
Sure.
But I love it. Yeah, I don't know. It changes. I still John Coltrane's birthday was this past week, so I've been listening to Coltrane all week.
Say he turned 94.
I'm still hung up on Coltrane. So yeah, Miles and Coltrane were two of the earliest influences. So I keep going back to the source.
It sounds like Hickory Robot's near and dear to your heart, but you spent over 1,000 shows with the Spookfloaters. So when you get back together with the Spookfloaters, you're with Hickory Robot. When you know which one has that instant chemistry?
I think probably Spookfloaters. I mean, just literally decades of playing together and all that time on the road. And you're right. I mean, I've lost track. I mean, it's well over 1,000 gigs at this point. It just feels like it's like putting on the glove. It's super easy. The energy just flows. And what's cool now is because we don't play as often, when we all come together, we all bring everything that we've done since then, and we all have grown, and those life experiences all kind of come together. It's been it's been so much fun the last couple years, and we're still challenging ourselves too. We feel like now when we get together, we need to make it special. So we did a show last November where we did an entire acoustic set beforehand, and we brought in a wonderful upright bass player, Julia Higgins, to play bass. I played mandolin the whole set. Then we did a show here where we did an entire set of Jerry Garcia Band. And we've talked about doing some non-Dead related things, like doing an entire album of somebody. And I think that's in the offing in the next year or so. Hopefully, we're going to, try and present an entire album of a band that we love. And we'll probably throw people for a loop. So it's...
I don't think they'll mind.
Yeah, no. I think they'll dig it. And then so that'll be a set, and then we'll do a set of all the favorites that everybody can dance to and enjoy. So,
well, what's up next for you? I know we got, events here. Obviously, we got Hickory Robot on the 9th coming in about 8 o'clock. And then we're hosting, and we'll get to that, we're hosting a Halloween show with the Almond Butter Band.
Yeah, very excited.
On the 31st. You got some recording going on with Hickory Robot?
We're talking about it. It will probably be next year.
Okay.
More likely is Jim Pells is wanting to get back and do some solo stuff. We were just talking about that. So I think that'll happen in the next year. I've been threatening for years to do a solo album. Which would be solo in name only, because I would call on all of my really good musician friends to play with me and make me sound better.
Right.
So, but I'm hoping in 2021 to start, if not finish, work on that and put out my first project. I'm really sort of thinking about the players I want to call in and how I want to form the project. And I think it'll probably be a mixed bag that'll only appeal to a very small niche, but it'll have some solo mandolin.
That's okay.
And some jazz things, and probably be largely instrumental, which will niche it even more. So, but I have to do it for me because I've been thinking about it for so long. I just want to get it off my plate.
Well, you should. No, that's what you should do. Well, with that, we're going to take a break. Stay tuned. Mitch is going to post a few upcoming events, especially events that Scott will be a part of here in the next month. So stay tuned here. We'll be right back. So we're back. Thanks for sticking around. And we're back with Scott Carnder, local musician and also booking agent for his bands, but songwriter.
Beer enthusiast.
And beer enthusiast. And thank you for saying that, because I want to get started in on your obsession with beer. Can I say that?
Sure.
Because I know you like beer.
I do like beer.
Yes. And you got friends besides us in the brewing industry as well.
I do indeed. I do indeed. I have two of my best friends just opened a brewery.
And they're neighbors, practically.
They are neighbors. They are here in the neighborhood. I would encourage everyone to seek them out.
Cheers to MPH.
Yeah. All right. So I didn't know if it was legit.
Cheers. Yeah. Let's cheers.
MPH, who also have Left Hand Brewing as part of their, they are the only left-hand tap room outside of Colorado.
Which is pretty cool.
And they've done a great job. And I have to say, besides obviously Left Hand's high-quality beers, the MPH beers are really solid in multiple styles. And there's 4 or 5 breweries in Cincinnati that I think that to me are, worthy of the top 5.
Sure. And better be one.
And absolutely. My criteria is that you have to have solid drinkable beers in multiple styles.
Sure.
And there's a lot of breweries that have 1 or 2 decent drinkable beers. But there's only a few that you can go style by style and just yep, that's solid. Yeah. And even if it's not something I dig, it's a solid representation of the style. And I've come a long way from lagers and pilsners to really stouts and IPAs are kind of my bag now. But just recently in the last couple years, I've really developed a taste for gozas and sours and kind of gotten into that.
Sure.
My wife and I went out and visited some family in Detroit and ran into a little brewery there just outside of Detroit called Ascension Brewing. And they had an apple pie sour that was like a game-changing beer. Where after I had that, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to explore sours now.
So where did you start? Were you a light beer guy like everybody else, and then kind of go into
coming up in the I really didn't drink much before I was 21,
Sure.
and as a young guy, I really didn't drink much until honestly my late 20s, early 30s, probably like a lot of people in that era. I was drinking Molson's, and the Canadian beers were the things you could get, and Anchor Steam, Sierra Nevada were the early IPAs.
Very happy with that choice.
Yeah, and Heineken. I drank my share of Heineken. The Spookfloaters for a couple of years were actually sponsored by Labatt's.
Really?
So I drank quite a bit of Labatt's beer, and it was really my buddy Jim that I mentioned before, and Mark when I started hanging with those guys, which has been 20 years ago at this point, I guess, we're on a beer quest, and Jim in particular, doesn't want to drink 2 of the same beer in a night. It's about trying different beers
and different stuff,
trying to taste it all. You can't listen to it all and you can't drink it all, but you can sure try. And so that was, really beneficial to me because I learned about styles and I learned to tell hops apart and taste,
Sure.
And understand the levels of flavor in a beer. We are living in the golden age of music and beer, because never before has anyone had access to as many beers. There's a couple stores in town that I hit, and every time I go in, there's something I've never seen before, and a brewer I've never heard of before, and that's amazing. And the same with music. So much out there, and quality music being made, and quality beer being brewed. So I feel quite fortunate in that regard.
Do you have a go-to 6-pack or something that you enjoy at home?
I go through phases. Right now, I've been hung up on, I've been drinking a lot of Jackie O's Mystic Mama.
Great beer.
I love that brewery. I'm really quite faithful to Cincinnati beers. I'm super proud to live in one of the great beer cities of the world, and I try and support Cincy beers as much as I can. I drink a lot of you guys and Mad Tree. I would love it if Brink would can, because Brink makes some brilliant beers.
They're working on it.
I hope so. I sincerely hope so.
We're good friends, so they're working on it.
Good. I would love it if they put their English mild in a can.
That's a fantastic beer.
It's
one of the best I've ever had. So there's a reason why it keeps winning medals.
Yes, it does. And it's funny. I've told a couple of people, like, I was like, it reminds me of my childhood in some way. And they're like, what kind of childhood did you have? But there's, I can't explain it more than that. But
Daddy
it's like,
fed me beer all
exactly.
the time.
Like, yeah.
And
Cheers.
he was English.
So
I want to go dive into the Almond Butter Band, who will be here on Halloween night. We're going to do some table reservations. So I just want to let people know. We will have that information out soon. I think we've got the layout, how we want to space it. During the coronavirus, we have to do things a little differently, so we can't pack people in like we would on a Spookfloaters show where it's elbow to elbow. I just want to dive into Almond Butter and why you started that band in particular. And then I'll get back to beer.
Okay, so Almond Butter was literally like, I think Jim Pells and I were having kind of an ongoing conversation, and I think perhaps I was bemoaning the overabundance of Grateful Dead bands, which, after the Grateful Dead's like 50th anniversary, it seemed like there were literally dozens of Grateful Dead bands just in this region.
Sure.
And I get it. I've played in one for decades, but it was too much, and we were talking about why isn't there, an Allman Brothers band, and so literally over the course of one afternoon, Jim Pells and I were like, well, let's put an Allman Brothers band together. And we kind of went back and forth about like, oh, it'd be great to do this tune, that tune, this tune. And by the end of the day, we had reached out to a number of people who all said, yeah, I'll be part of that.
That's cool.
And I had reached out to somebody and was like, hey, can we get a gig if we do this? And so literally in the course of an afternoon, we thought up the band, we had the band, we had a group of songs we knew we wanted to do, and we had a gig. So it was like the motivation was there. Now we ended up actually canceling that gig because we didn't feel like we were ready enough. Sure. And our first show ended up being here, which
thank you, it was a great show.
Absolutely, very proud of it, and we had such a huge turnout.
Packed. Yeah, it was packed.
And within the course, and that was January of 2019, and in December of 2019, we sold out the Redmore, our first kind of on our own ticketed show, and we had so much momentum going into this year, and then COVID hit, and we were like, oh. Jim Pells, again, is just such a monster musician, and he, we worked up basically, we had a show plus about 2 songs extra.
Sure. And
he'd written beautiful charts. So we had all these great musicians who were capable of like taking these charts and bringing them to life. And everybody was on the same page. And the other part of it was that the band, because we kind of pulled friends and guys we'd played with, and there was something on the first gig, there was already something like 65 years of connected interplay between the band, where like Scott Hacker and Nick Blasky had played together for 15 years, and Nick and Scott and I had played together for 4 years, and Jim and I had played for 11, and the keyboard player Phil and Jim had played for 15 years, and so there was no getting to know you period. Like we were already sort of gelled as a group going in. You guys already
knew each other, for sure.
Yeah, and so that just made it. It made it so easy, like it was so comfortable from the first rehearsal. I remember literally the first song we played and we got done, I just looked around like I had goosebumps. I was so excited. Awesome. I was like, oh, this is going to be fantastic.
And 2 drummers.
Exactly. And the energy of that, as a bass player, like there's, nothing more you could ask for. I mean, and again, I feel like I have the best seat in the house because a lot of those Allman Brothers bass lines, you just play kind of the same pattern, over and over again, or there's sort of a set thing to play. So I can sort of put myself in sort of an autopilot mentally where I'm just playing the groove and let everybody else percolate and solo and go off. And it's so much fun. That's so much fun.
Yeah, great band. So really looking forward to our Halloween gig. That's on October 31st, obviously. So
appropriately enough.
But you never know. People say Halloween weekend, but
Well, it's a Saturday night.
Saturday night.
It's a full moon, a blue moon.
Oh, I didn't know it was a full moon.
It's an almond butter moon. Yes, it's got a lot going for it. And the time changes, too.
Yes.
So you get an extra hour.
All right, so I'm going to read this one word for word. You're stuck in a house in the wood for 3 months with any band, dead or alive, and they're missing their bass player or mandolin player. You need to complete an album together.
Oh, God.
Who's the band that you're now a part of? Dead or alive?
Dead or alive?
That question was written by Mitch, our infamous producer here, and I like that one.
Completely out of left field, perhaps. Gomez.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Perfect. They're an English band. I love them. They're as diverse as can be. I have mad love for Gomez. If you have no idea who I'm talking about, check out the album Liquid Skin. That's a good starting place. That's their second album.
I'm going to check it out.
You know, many answers there. Thievery Corp would be very cool again. But I'll stick with Gomez.
Let's pretend that you get to share a 6-pack with any musician, dead or alive. But it's the last beer you'll ever get to drink.
Oh, Lord.
What beer are you drinking and what musician do you share it with? That's a tough question.
Can it be a beer that doesn't exist anymore? The last beer would be dead or alive. Okay, I would have a blank slate opera cream stout. With Jerry Garcia.
All right, great answer. Great answer. All right, so last question from a music standpoint, or at least a philosophical music standpoint. We always ask this question.
Okay. On
stage at Fretboard, 3 bands, dead or alive, that you want to see play here.
Regardless of feasibility of...
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It could be Grateful Dead, you know, whatever.
I would like to see Billy Strings. Trombone Shorty.
That's pretty cool. All right.
That would be fun. What's absurd? Let's think of something absurd. No, how about Dweezil Zappa?
I like that one. That one is pretty cool. So we're going to wrap. Yeah, no, it's perfect timing. We're going to wrap it up. Trivia is about to start. We have trivia every Tuesday in the tap room. But I just want to go in real quick, recap. On October 9th, Hickory Robot is the headliner. Music starts at 4:30. It's brought to you by EBTH, which is our neighbors, everything but the house. Great neighbors to have. They're bringing a evening of Americana music, and it starts at 4:30 and then ends with the headliner, Hickory Robot. And then also we are calling it Gulshine on October 31st, Halloween night. We will have the Almond Butter Band here. So looking forward to that as well with Scott and the crew.
Me too.
Table reservations for that event will be posted very soon. We're getting the seating chart organized, so that is to come. I just want to make sure if you enjoyed this interview, make sure you subscribe or comment below. You can talk rude things about Scott. Don't worry. You can take it. And I appreciate you guys watching, so thanks for watching. Scott, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Cheers.
My pleasure and an honor.
Yeah. Cheers.